Hello, I am Stephanie Jenewein, Managing Consultant at Guidehouse and former State SNAP Director. I'm on a journey to interview various leaders and translate their lessons learned directly for SNAP. Today, I'm joined by Margaret Schaus. Margaret has managed federal programs and budgets at the Department of Energy, the Pentagon, and most recently served as a CFO for NASA. Welcome, Margaret. I'm really excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm happy to be joining you.
Margaret, from your breadth of experience managing federal dollars, how did you approach making strategic investment decisions under uncertainty?
That's a great question, Stephanie. A consistent theme across every agency I've worked in is that budget uncertainty is a constant. And I found that a key to staying ahead of it is first to make sure that you have strategic clarity, to understand, are your organizational priorities explicit, and is your budget aligned to those priorities? Having that alignment is really important to allowing leaders to anticipate and act rather than react. And then a second step I've found is really helpful is making sure you have done scenario planning ahead of time. And as leaders, we're regularly executing current year funds while planning for the next year. And if you've taken that time to think through those multiple funding scenarios and built adaptable plans, you can pivot quickly and make better decisions under pressure as you need to.
I really appreciate that. SNAP programs definitely face constant shifts in demand, not only with their funding expectations, but also with policy and processes. So that proactive planning mindset can make a huge difference. For leaders who may not have new funding this year, what are some low-cost, high-impact changes that translate well into SNAP operations?
Well, Stephanie, I recently read this great book that I recommend called The Friction Project, and it talks about how leaders can take actions to remove small organizational barriers that can quietly drain the time and energy from our workforce. And what was such a powerful message is that a lot of these improvements don't require new funding, they just require leadership, time, and attention. So, one thing that any of us can do is to really look at our processes and, bring together the people who do that work and ask them, what are the bottlenecks that you experience and what can we do to fix them? And I found that those small operational changes that improve administrative clarity, reduce friction, and simplify workflows can help unlock gains in productivity and morale without adding cost.
Yes, this hits home for SNAP. Caseloads are really high, resources are often extremely tight. So improving those internal efficiencies can directly improve timeliness, staff capacity, and client experience without requiring a lot of that funding. But even still, there seems to be this hesitancy around spending any money on improvements right now. When decision makers are being cautious or were cautious about spending, what helped you justify an investment?
That is a great question. I found that three elements are really important. First is having a clear risk narrative, and that includes articulating the cost of inaction. It could be schedule delays, cost growth, or compliance risk. Because when you're able to frame that downside clearly, it helps the decisions become more concrete. Secondly, I would say identifying the measurable return. Sometimes that return can be financial and sometimes it's not. But being able to specifically identify what are the risks being reduced? Are we improving resiliency? What is long-term cost avoidance? Those are some kinds of returns that can be helpful in making that case. And then finally, I would offer articulating alignment to strategic priorities, which I mentioned earlier. If you're considering an investment that clearly advances your high priority objectives, it makes it easier to defend that investment within an organization.
You're exactly right. The return on investment isn't always financial in SNAP, and there is a major risk of doing nothing. So SNAP leaders see this every day in their backlogs, their call wait times, their rising error rates, and really in their staff burnout and turnover of staff. So making those risks visible can be really a huge difference for leadership, tying them to those larger priorities. Margaret, we're going to move into a lightning round. 3 questions, 3 answers. What
Love it.
is one mistake that SNAP leaders should avoid when investing during fiscal uncertainty?
I would say try to avoid doing across the board cuts. Oftentimes, equal reductions feel fair, but they ignore disproportionate impact. And so be ready to protect your highest impact functions and be willing to scale back those lower value activities.
What is a metric that every program leader should watch when they're making operational trade-offs?
I would say that for any investment you prioritize, be clear on 2 things. First, the value that it delivers, and second, when that value will materialize. And giving that clarity allows you to make informed trade-offs when those resources tighten and competing priorities emerge.
Last one. What's one question that you hope SNAP directors ask their teams in the next 30 days?
I would say that if your budgets were to be reduced by, say, 10% tomorrow, how would you rank your investments and why? And understanding the answer to that question will quickly reveal what is truly mission critical in your organization.
That's awesome, Margaret. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. Keep doing the good work, my friends.
You're so welcome. Happy to join.